Friedrich Nietzsche's The Antichrist, a critique of Christianity, and a call for new values. Friedrich Nietzsche's The Antichrist, Der Antichrist, 1888, is one of his most polemical and controversial works. Written during the final productive year of his life, this text represents a full frontal assault on Christianity, which Nietzsche views as a decadent, life-denying force that has corrupted Western values. Nietzsche's critique extends beyond religion, targeting morality, culture, and philosophy as influenced by Christian ideals. The Antichrist is not merely a critique of religion but also a manifesto for Nietzsche's concept of life affirmation and his ideal of the Übermensch, Overman. This video will explore the key concepts from the Antichrist, including Nietzsche's radical critique of Christianity, his call for a new set of values, and his vision for a life-affirming future. We'll also touch on the relevance of these ideas for everyday life and criticisms of Nietzsche's arguments. Nietzsche begins the Antichrist by condemning Christianity as a religion that values weakness, suffering, and submission over strength, vitality, and affirmation of life. He sees it as a slave morality that has inverted natural values, glorifying humility, meekness, and asceticism, while demonizing power, pleasure, and the instincts. Key concept: Christianity promotes slave morality. According to Nietzsche, Christianity is rooted in the resentment, or ressentiment, of the weak and powerless, who, unable to attain power, redefine weakness as virtue and power as evil. It represents a profound denial of life because it rejects earthly pleasures, passions, and strength in favor of a focus on an imaginary afterlife. Quote, Christianity remains to this day the greatest misfortune of humanity, Nietzsche, 1888. Nietzsche argues that Christianity has stifled humanity's potential by promoting values that deny human instincts and the will to power. Example: Nietzsche contrasts Christianity's moral teachings, such as turn the other cheek and blessed are the meek, with the warrior ethics of the ancient Greeks and Romans, who celebrated courage, honor, and strength. For Nietzsche, a Christian who sacrifices their earthly desires for the promise of heavenly salvation is betraying the vitality of life. Relevance for everyday life: Nietzsche's critique of Christianity encourages individuals to question any moral system or ideology that promotes sacrifice and repression of natural instincts in the name of abstract ideals. In modern contexts, his ideas can be applied to debates about personal freedom, the role of religion in public life, and the way society views power and ambition. Nietzsche famously declares the death of God in earlier works like The Gay Science and Thus Spoke Zarathustra. In The Antichrist, he explores the consequences of this proclamation, arguing that with the decline of belief in God, Western civilization must overcome the moral values that have been shaped by Christian theology. Key concept: God is dead, but humanity still clings to Christian morality. Nietzsche believes that even after the decline of religion, society continues to be guided by the same moral framework established by Christianity. For Nietzsche, this is problematic because it means that society remains life-denying even without religious belief. Quote, the concept of God invented as a counter-concept of life, everything harmful, poisonous, slanderous, the whole mortal enmity against life was bound together in this one horrible concept. Nietzsche, 1888. Nietzsche sees the belief in God as inherently antagonistic to the affirmation of life. Example: in modern secular societies, many of the moral values Nietzsche critiques, altruism, equality, and humility, remain central. Nietzsche would argue that these values, while no longer justified by belief in God, continue to influence laws, politics, and social structures in a way that stifles human potential. Relevance for everyday life: the death of God represents the collapse of absolute moral authority. Nietzsche challenges individuals to confront the void left by this collapse and to create new values based on life affirmation rather than life denial. His critique can be seen in discussions around secularism, moral relativism, and the need for new ethical systems in a post-religious world. At the core of Nietzsche's philosophy is the will to power, a fundamental drive he believes is the essence of life. In The Antichrist, Nietzsche argues that Christianity suppresses the will to power by encouraging individuals to reject their instincts and submit to an external moral code. Key concept: the will to power as the driving force of life. Nietzsche contrasts the life-denying values of Christianity with the life-affirming values of his idealized overman, Übermensch, who embraces the will to power and seeks to create meaning through strength, creativity, and the affirmation of existence. Quote, "What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness." Nietzsche, 1888. For Nietzsche, good and evil are not absolute concepts but are tied to what enhances or diminishes life and power. Example: Nietzsche's vision of the will to power can be compared to individuals who seek self-overcoming in various forms, whether through personal achievement, artistic creation, or intellectual development. Unlike the Christian ideal of self-denial, Nietzsche advocates for self-realization and the pursuit of one's highest potential. Relevance for everyday life: Nietzsche's will to power encourages people to focus on personal growth and creativity. Instead of conforming to societal expectations or external moral codes, individuals are urged to find their own path to fulfillment, embracing their desires and ambitions. A key outcome of Nietzsche's critique of Christianity and morality is his call for the revaluation of all values. Nietzsche argues that the values society currently holds, compassion, equality, humility, are rooted in Christian morality and must be replaced by values that affirm life and strength. His concept of the overman, Übermensch, represents this new ideal. Key concept: the overman as the creator of new values. The overman is a future individual who will rise above conventional morality, create their own values, and embrace the chaos and suffering of life without relying on religious or moral crutches. For Nietzsche, the overman is the embodiment of the will to power. Quote, "The weak and the botched shall perish, first principle of our charity. And one should help them to it." Nietzsche, 1888. This provocative statement reflects Nietzsche's belief that weakness should not be glorified, and society should focus on cultivating strength and greatness. Example: Nietzsche's overman can be seen as analogous to figures in history who have defied conventional norms and created new values. Think of innovators, artists, and revolutionaries who challenged the status quo and reshaped culture or thought, such as Leonardo da Vinci, Beethoven, or Napoleon. Relevance for everyday life: Nietzsche's concept of the overman challenges individuals to reject passive acceptance of society's moral norms and to actively create their own values. This resonates in modern contexts where people are encouraged to think independently, challenge traditions, and carve out their own paths to meaning and success. Nietzsche offers a harsh critique of pity and altruism, both of which he sees as central to Christian morality. For Nietzsche, pity is a weakness that only perpetuates suffering by enabling the weak and discouraging self-overcoming. Key concept: pity is a tool for the weak. Nietzsche argues that pity undermines the strong by dragging them down to the level of the weak. He sees altruism and self-sacrifice as life-denying practices that prevent individuals from pursuing their own strength and flourishing. Quote, "Pity stands opposed to the tonic emotions which heighten our vitality. It has a depressing effect. We are deprived of strength when we feel pity." Nietzsche, 1888. Nietzsche views pity as a drain on energy and vitality, something that promotes weakness rather than strength. Example: Nietzsche's critique of pity can be understood in the context of modern welfare systems. He would argue that excessive compassion or support for the weak at the expense of encouraging self-reliance and personal growth leads to societal stagnation. Relevance for everyday life: Nietzsche's rejection of pity challenges modern ideals of charity and social welfare, urging individuals and societies to focus on strength and self-overcoming rather than supporting the weak. While his view may seem harsh, it raises important questions about the balance between compassion and empowerment in social and personal ethics. Nietzsche's The Antichrist has drawn significant criticism, both for its content and tone. 1. Misinterpretation of Christianity. Critics argue that Nietzsche misrepresents Christianity by focusing solely on its negative aspects. They contend that Christian teachings on love, compassion, and forgiveness have contributed positively to society and human relations. Example: philosopher Alistair MacIntyre suggests that Nietzsche's critique of Christianity is overly simplistic and ignores the complex ways in which Christian ethics have shaped Western civilization, particularly in fostering social solidarity and care for the marginalized. 2. Elitism and anti-egalitarianism. Nietzsche's emphasis on strength and his disdain for the weak have been criticized as promoting elitism, and even authoritarianism. Some critics argue that Nietzsche's philosophy could be used to justify exploitation and the oppression of vulnerable groups. Quote, political theorist John Rawls critiqued Nietzsche's philosophy for its rejection of egalitarianism, arguing that it promotes a society that devalues the weak and vulnerable. Rawls, 1971. 3. Amorality and nihilism. Nietzsche's rejection of traditional moral systems has been interpreted as promoting amorality or even nihilism. Critics worry that his call for a revaluation of all values could lead to moral relativism, where individuals feel free to act without regard for any ethical guidelines. Friedrich Nietzsche's The Antichrist is a scathing critique of Christianity, and a bold manifesto for a new, life-affirming set of values. Through his attack on Christian morality, his proclamation of the death of God, and his call for the overman, Nietzsche challenges individuals to embrace their will to power and create their own meaning in a post-religious world. While his ideas are controversial and often harsh, they continue to provoke deep reflection on the nature of morality, power, and the meaning of life.